Welcome to Bank on It, Conversations with First Seacoast Bank. Today's topic, holiday budgeting tips and being cognizant of financial fraud attempts during the holiday season. I'm your host, Chris Hislop, and here with me today is Gina DeNuzzio, Assistant Vice President and Barrington Branch Manager of First Seacoast Bank.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris.
Not a problem. I want to start today with just getting some background information. How did you find your way to First Seacoast Bank? When did you start here? And what do you appreciate about working for a small community bank?
Very good. So I started here 8 years ago, and I was working for a larger bank, and somebody that I'd worked with previously at that same bank tapped me on the shoulder and said that there was a good position here at one of the branches and thought I would make a good fit. And that's how it all began.
When you think about the role that you had before at a bigger bank, was there any challenge in moving to a smaller community bank and getting up to speed, getting to know the people and customers in the community that you're serving, or was it all pretty seamless?
I have to say it was pretty seamless. The employees that I work with immediately welcomed me, and the customers were very easy to get to know. They were very happy. It was the first time I'd ever had a lot of customers on a regular basis tell me how much they really appreciate being a customer for First Seacoast Bank. And that was something I hadn't experienced before, and I was really happy with it.
What got you started in retail banking, or even a step back from that? Like, what got you started in banking initially? Did you do any schooling around it, or?
So I originally had started after college. I had done a few years in a small bank, still in New Hampshire, and then I left it because of my background, which is on behavioral health, and I went into the social work field. With that, there was a lot of funding that was getting taken away from mental health, and it was really hard to work in that field to continue. So I went back to where I liked and knew that I would still be using my people skills, and I have. It's actually benefited me coming back to banking. I was really excited to come back to banking because it was where I really started.
And so, in talking about retail banking and where you got started, et cetera, what's the current environment like with retail banking? Are there challenges associated with it when you think about constant movement in progression in technology, online entities, larger banks, et cetera? Like, from your perspective at First Seacoast Bank, what does retail banking look like?
So it's a challenging time for sure. We're in an environment where the economy is much more challenging than it ever has been. And, we have the government shutdown, which has caused some angst out there. But, we're face to face with our customers every single day, and they get to know us as well. And we've developed really good, solid relationships with them. That's always been important in the community banking world. And we've continued that. And one of the things I like about First Seacoast Bank is that we can be more lenient with certain situations. We can look at the full picture of our customer in front of us instead of following the black and white rules that a lot of the other banks have us follow.
Are there any other benefits that you can speak to of somebody looking to open a new account or, venture into new products within a bank? Are there any further benefit to working with a smaller community bank versus say a larger entity?
Absolutely. That person is not their account number. They're a person, and we recognize that, and we listen to them, and we help them with solutions that we can offer. And if we can't, we try to find another way. That's one of the great things about working here and for a community bank is our vision is always for the community. And if our customers in the community aren't doing well, that's not good for the bank as well.
Speaking of, being within a tight-knit community and working closely with the people in that community, the holidays are right around the corner, It's November at the time of this recording. So we're talking about, the season of giving gifts, giving thanks, etc., buying a ton of groceries for, big family gathering meals, etc. And of course, costs are rising everywhere. Let's talk about things you see around this time of year, trends you see, how you help people get prepared for the holiday season from a budgeting perspective, etc., and or, products you might offer from a retail perspective to help with those costs, expenditures.
Absolutely. This is a really happy time for most people, but we also know it's a very stressful time. And unfortunately, we do see an increase in fraud and overdraft during this time. The biggest thing I think people should look at is budgeting, of course, but also planning, looking ahead at what they need to do. There's just so many paychecks before the, big holiday is coming around the corner. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard for a lot of parents and families in general. We love to help our customers, and we hope that they realize that they can come into the branches at any time. We have a lot of resources and tools that can help customers for their budgeting and for goal setting. And, we want them to be able to feel comfortable to come to us in order to do that. Some of the things that we have on our online banking is we have goal setting where somebody can actually go in and name whatever that goal is, set a time period, set an amount, and the app will actually make sure that you follow that goal that you've set. The other resource that we have is budgeting. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting for customers to use is to identify how they're spending their money. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that they can do is they can go in and look at how they've spent their money for the last period of time. They can choose a month or whatever, and there's different categories so that they can see what they're spending their money on. This can help them to either reduce that amount that they've been spending on so that they're more aware of that, which is really a good thing to have. I think most people, it would probably fall under food and going out to dinner. And I think people would be really surprised how much they actually spend if they take a look at what they had done and then plan ahead. That's really a good tool for customers to use. And I'm not sure if they're aware of it. But if anybody ever comes in, we would sit down with them and would love to go over all of those different categories and help them to produce a plan for them is unique to them. Because one of the things we would never do is tell people how to spend their money. That's individual. They're all grown-ups and they know what their budget is. They know how much they have to spend. They know what bills they have. We would just want to help to guide them so it makes it easier for them, so they don't have to worry about overdrafts, because those can be very expensive. And we definitely don't want to see our customers going through a period of time where they're spending all their money on overdrafts versus what they need to spend it on, which is their bills, their day-to-day living expenses.
We're taking a quick pause to bring you What's in Your Wallet. Gina, we're going to jump into a segment called What's in Your Wallet. That's just an item that exists. It could be in your wallet, could be an app, could be in your purse, could be in your glove box, just something that you've got that either informs or inspires your day-to-day, or again, is just something fun that you have that people might be interested in hearing about.
Of course. So I have a bunch of measurements on my phone. And the purpose for those measurements is because I am really big into miniatures, specifically dollhouse miniatures. And this isn't for little kids, this is grown-up dollhouses. So I am always looking for different pieces of furniture or some kind of miscellaneous piece out there that could be made into something for one of my dollhouses.
So similar but different. I have measurements of my office. I am a record hoarder, and so I take measurements of any empty space that could facilitate another shelf to put records on. My wife's listening. She's now very upset with me. I love that. That's good. Can you talk to, definitely correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe when you talk about, holiday expenditures or just expenditures in general, First Seacoast Bank has some unique products that actually have a reward element to them, right?
We sure do. And we love to have customers engage with us and to open these accounts. We have a couple of different reward checking accounts, and it's actually so easy to get those rewards. We have one where it's a higher interest rate, and then we have one where you're going to gain cash back. It's a certain percentage for how much you're going to earn towards your purchases. And we have a savings account that can be attached to those as well. And it does have a higher interest rate than our other savings account. And there's no minimum balances for any of them. So that allows our customers to do their day-to-day, not worry about what's in their checking or savings account. And the savings account is really something that we encourage everybody to have. And it is a part of the budgeting that people should be doing. You know, we don't want to set the amounts like the old Christmas clubs where it was 25, 50, 100. You might have a week where that's not feasible. So having a savings account, you get to decide on how much money you're going to put aside. But we definitely do recommend having one for the purpose of saving for that vacation. The holidays is a big one. I think, you know, we all joke around about how many days it is before the holidays come up, but it really is a thing, and people panic once it comes to Thanksgiving. There's only a couple of paychecks before Christmas is here, and that doesn't give people enough time to really spend the amount that they want to spend or to plan what they want to have. One of the things that, you know, I always say is, you know, make your Christmas list and check it twice at least, just like Santa Claus does. Because you want to make sure that you're getting the gifts that you want to get your family and friends, but are you going overboard? Are you spending excessive amounts? So that's something that we always encourage somebody to do.
This may sound silly, but, you know, people genuinely may not know this, but you mentioned like holiday club, holiday saver accounts a moment ago, but there's no reason why a customer can't have multiple accounts here, right? Where they might just set one up for the holidays specifically so that they're not touching that throughout the course of the year. And then when November hits, which we happen to be in, so it might be too late for some of us. I'm going to put my name on that list. Ho, ho, ho. At least you're starting to think next year, okay, I've started this account with First Seacoast Bank or, you know, wherever. And I now have access to funds that I've saved throughout the year that will help me pay for, you know, again, groceries, gifts, whatever it is. So they can have multiple accounts.
Absolutely, and we do encourage that. I don't know if anybody remembers, but our grandparents had envelopes that they would put their money into, set aside for certain things like groceries, the electric bill, etc. The savings account replaces that, and it's actually a great tool for customers. They label them for what they have and what they're savings for, or it could be just a future event, or it could just be for spending it on going out to dinner, knowing that they need to keep their money aside for day-to-day stuff. One of the things that I like to tell customers is not to put all your bill money into your checking account, your full paycheck, because that is something that you're going to need to make sure that you're able to function and pay your bills, pay, you know, for food, etc. And if something should happen, like fraud, because that can happen, then you've got it set aside. You've got a large amount set aside so that can cover you.
So first step, if I'm hearing you correctly, first step is to download whatever the app is you were talking about, or start to play with the numbers, start to figure out what you can actually afford and set aside. Come in if you need help setting that sort of thing up. And once you've landed on an appropriate budget for holiday funding, or, you know, this could pertain to anything like annual vacations or, you know, whatever it may be, you know, play with the numbers, figure out the applicable budget, and then maybe open a secondary account and start putting money towards that.
Correct. And that's the great thing about that savings account I was referring to. It's the saver account that can be attached to the rewards checking. Because there is no minimum balance, you can put aside as much as you want or as little as you want to get ready for whatever it is that you're saving money for. It could just be a rainy day. But we have other savings accounts too that they can open and put money aside for. And we have a lot of customers that do that.
All right, Gina, we've been talking a lot about saving. On the flip side of saving is spending. What can you say about someone that's in a situation this year? They haven't started that, secondary savings account. They haven't really looked at their budgeting all that much. So they're approaching the holiday season and they're diving in and paying for, gifts, groceries, whatever, on high interest credit cards. Feels like poor practice to me,
But it does happen, and we recognize that. We do offer a credit card, actually a few of them, that has a very competitive rate that customers can use. But one of the things I would tell a customer is not to get stuck on spending everything on their credit cards, especially with a higher interest rate. Store cards are notorious for that. They might get you in because they give you a special for a short term, but then once that's over, and it's hard for a lot of customers to get to the point where they can pay that off because of the interest rate. So I think they need to be careful about where they're spending their money, because we see a lot where customers are spending for that one Christmas 12 months later and they're still paying on the previous Christmas.
That's a tough position to be.
It is, and we hate to see
catch
that
up.
for
Yeah.
customers, and especially if they're wanting to eventually get into a home, and they're trying to save for a home, and they've accumulated so much debt that does affect their credit score as well. So again, we would like our customers to come in and sit down with us before it gets to that point.
Rooted in the sentiment of hindsight being 2020, let's get into Banking Time Machine. Next segment is called Banking Time Machine. What's one thing you know now that you wish you knew then?
I really wish I'd paid more attention in computer classes, because I didn't realize how much we depend on computer systems in our computers on a regular day-to-day basis. When I started in banking back in the 1980s, everything was manual. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have to worry about understanding how they all worked. Now everything we do is on the computer. And anybody that knows me, I am challenged with anything that's new coming in, a new system. Mm-hmm. It does take me a little bit to get to be more comfortable.
And, we live in a time where the device we hold in our hand each and every day is in and of itself a computer. So it is very much everywhere.
Exactly.
When we started chatting, you had used the word fraud, which is always something that triggers me in my mind. And you're talking about credit cards, we're talking about technology, we're talking about things like, online banking, the apps, stuff like that. But when you start to think about technology and the way that you put out personal information to open some of those accounts, obviously there's security that goes along with that. People want to feel secure. They want to feel like, their information's just not getting in the wrong hands. So I understand that you're the chair of First Seacoast Bank's Internal Fraud Fighters Committee, which I love. I'd love to learn a little bit more about that, how it started, and what sort of things you guys are looking at, both generally speaking and especially like what fraud looks like during the holiday season. I imagine, but I don't know, I imagine it ramps up, that activity ramps up during the holiday season, but I'm going to stop and let you chat.
I am really proud to run the Fraud Fighters, and I'm especially proud of the group that I have. There's one employee at each branch, and the work that they do and have done in the last couple of years has really increased the knowledge, not just for the employees, but for our customers as well. We do several things throughout the year. We have a weekly trivia that we share with our customers, trying to get them to understand fraud and to be aware of what is going on in their community. A lot of people aren't aware of how much there is out there, and the more that they know, the less that we have to get involved in for them. It's really hard to see a couple come in and maybe they've lost their savings that they've put together for their retirement. So one of the things that we like to do is also weekly we have an email that goes out to all the employees of the bank so that they can share the fraud information with their family and friends. And then we have a monthly newsletter that we put out to all the employees, not just with information. We try to make it a little fun. I do like a cartoon with a particular type of fraud that they can guess at what it is. But we like to brag as to what's going on in the branches and with our customer service people. We like to share all of the times that they've stopped fraud and they've helped customers, they've educated their customers, and that helps reduce fraud on their end.
What was the impetus behind starting the committee?
So we saw an increase in fraud. When I first got here in 2018, there really wasn't too much that was going on at the bank. I had seen quite a bit at some of the other banks that I had worked for, but First Seacoast Bank hadn't really seen too much. Then we started to, and we knew that we needed to do something to make sure that we could reduce that. You know, we saw a lot of customers that were getting checks that weren't actual funds behind it, and they've spent it. Now they're responsible for that money that they've spent. And debit card usage, there's a lot of fraud for that too. One of the things that I would say about the holidays is to really be careful about how you're using your debit card or credit card. There's a lot of companies or different individuals out there that are doing that deal on an item that might be that hot item that your child wants.
Yeah.
They need to be careful because a lot of times a good deal is not such a good deal.
Right.
And so they need to do some research. They can always come in. We love to help our customers with fraud. We don't want them to be in that position where, you know, they've had all these charges on their account that they didn't do. We do have a lot of different things in place for that as well. One of the tools we have on our app, our mobile app, is an alert that they can set up for their debit cards. They can be notified when there's purchases. They can also go in and set some boundaries on their card. They can put in locations, amounts, places that they don't want their card to be used. They can turn their card off or keep it on. I think that's a great tool to use, and I don't think all our customers are aware of that. But that's one of the things that the Fraud Fighters likes to do, is to educate, and that's one of the areas that we try to grab all the customers and tell them about that great service that we can offer.
With regard to education and the Fraud Fighters, do you send out periodic emails with just trends that you're seeing? And if so, is there some type of sign up that a customer can give their email address for, or do you just email everybody? Like, how does that work?
So our marketing department does have a focus on fraud, which is great because our customers are not only seeing it when they come into the branch, but they're seeing it on our website, they're seeing it in our social media, and we're giving those warnings, what to look for and what to be aware of. And that's the purpose of us educating our employees as well, is because they're the ones that are going to be talking to the customers. It doesn't just affect the customers that are coming into the retail branch. It could be our commercial lenders that are talking to our commercial customers, mortgage loan officers that are talking to our potential mortgage customers. It reaches every department in banking.
So it sounds to me like you're asking people to follow you on Facebook and Instagram for your up-to-date fraud fighting tips.
Absolutely. You know, that's, we have a lot of fun stuff on there. We have a lot of areas of where we're talking about our products and what we have, which are really good for customers as well. But what they're seeing out there is a really great, robust program of letting customers know about fraud. And I would also like to add, not just our customers, but anybody that's looking into joining First Seacoast Bank or curious about First Seacoast Bank, definitely you want to start at our website. Our website has a wealth of knowledge. One of the areas that we have is an online education center, and there's some really great videos on there that can help anybody looking for any area that you can think of in banking. Budgeting is also on there, and it'll guide you to some of the tools and resources that we have.
And I just happened to pull that up on my computer. So the URL for that is firstseacoastbank.com/online education center. This has been great so far, Gina. So we've talked a lot about different ways that First Seacoast Bank helps in getting people prepared for budgeting, holiday season, etc. And let's face it, the holidays can be stressful. Money can be stressful. How does a community bank like First Seacoast Bank help people navigate what could be considered a potentially turbulent experience?
So, when we talked about the relationship that we build with our customers, one of the areas that I really like working for a community bank, and specifically First Seacoast Bank, is we recognize that with our customers, is that their mental health is equally as important as their finances. So the bank did engage in a program where it's a mental health first aid class. And I've had the background because I went to school for this, but I really like the fact that so many people in the bank had joined that training and have completed their training, and they've continued to along that same path in training. And we are very compassionate. We understand, we have empathy for the customers that are really stressed out. We want them to come in. We want them to feel comfortable to come in and know that they can talk with us, and we will listen to them and we will help them.
Love it. Just another way. Community bank like First Seacoast Bank really appreciates the community around them and gets involved. Gina, thanks so much for the time today. Appreciate you stopping by the office here.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Bank on It, Conversations with First Seacoast Bank. I'd like to thank my guest, Gina DeNuzzio, for graciously sharing her insights into budgeting for impending holiday expenses, as well as tips and tricks for avoiding falling victim to financial fraud this holiday season and beyond. First Seacoast Bank is member FDIC, equal housing lender. For more information, visit www.firstseacoastbank.com.